Welcome to Superstitions and Traditions. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Trish.
And today we are doing Am I the Asshole? Historical Edition.
I love the Am I the Asshole?
Me too.
It's just one of those things we need to know.
We do.
Uh-huh.
We do. And there are a lot of good people out there that weren't assholes.
Yes, there are.
But people thought they did asshole-ish things.
And then some
really bad people that were absolute
really people
assholes.
That were assholes. Yes.
And there is no way around it.
That's right.
So we like to hear about both of those.
Yes, we do. Yes,
it makes the world a better place
yes,
when we know. So today we are going to talk about Horatio Storer, who was a doctor.
Oh, okay. What kind of doctor?
He was a gynecologist and an obstetrician.
Very important work.
Very important work. Okay, he wants to know, am I the asshole for attempting to alleviate the mental suffering of women?
Okay.
I was born in Boston and earned my MD at Harvard Medical School. I spent a year in Edinburgh studying under Dr. James Young Simpson, a renowned obstetrician. I started my practice as a gynecologist and obstetrician in Boston in 1855. In 1869, due to the success of my practice and the acknowledgement of the American Medical Association, I formed the Gynecological Society of Boston and the first academic journal, the Journal of Gynecological Society of Boston. Because of my devotion to the female body and the study of it, I established gynecology as a medical specialty.
Oh, okay. I love his devotion to the female body.
I know.
Keep going.
In 1857, I began advocating against the use of abortion, not only discouraging medical doctors from performing them, but also encouraging politicians to pass laws banning them. I launched the Physicians' Crusade against the barbaric procedure. At the time, the standard belief dictated that the life of the baby began at the quickening, but I felt it began at conception. Women were not seeing medical doctors for pregnancy or the prevention of pregnancy. The practice was largely still in the hands of midwives, unqualified women whose only knowledge was gained from carrying and delivering a child herself. I noticed it was mostly Protestant white women who were obtaining abortions. Oh. And I rallied, I don't know if that's true, but that is something he preached.
Okay, yes.
And rallied many against the practice in hopes of white women using their loins to prevent the blackening and browning of the U.S.
Oh my. Oh my. Keep going.
With the freeing of black slaves and an increase of Chinese immigrants, I feared the abortions were causing a racial suicide. Outlawing abortion would return the nation to white intelligence.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Listen, these are his words.
Okay.
While keeping with what some would later refer to as eugenics, I supported the white women birthing our future to be of sound mind. Women who have been habitually thievish, profane or obscene, despondent or self-indulgent, shrewish... It happens sometimes. Sometimes we are self-indulgent.
And shrewish.
And shrewish or fetutious. I encouraged them to have an ovarectomy.
Ovarectomy. Get those ovaries out of there. Okay.
These procedures were already used to cure ovarian cysts and tumors, but knowing menstruation caused insanity in women, those who could not fight the mental illness with their own mind needed assistance to overcome the mental disorder. I fought to restore the United States female citizens to their proper duties, marriage and childbearing. I encouraged white Protestant married couples to procreate as much as possible, reminding them that marital relations that do not produce offspring is nothing less than legalized prostitution.
Okay.
I successfully, nearly single-handedly, persuaded states to pass or strengthen laws against elective abortions and dissuaded the hiring of midwives, nearly eliminating the use of those women. The mental health of women vastly improved with bearing children, as I suspected, and those who could not improve with motherhood were vastly improved with the loss of their ovaries.
Tell you my verdict here. So I know where I'm leaning. You can tell by the expression on my face, but and in order to provide some debate and some clarification, we're going to. Okay, so we're in the early 1800s.
Well, yeah, mid
1800s. Mid 1800s.
And he, at this time, there was gynecology.
Okay.
It was a new, just something a medical doctor did.
Just
like for cysts or pain or things like that.
Check it out up there, see what's going on. Okay.
It wasn't its own like specialty. You didn't have to train for it like you do now, like a medical specialty. Right. We also have to keep in mind that it wasn't an 8-year course or, study.
Right.
You went to school for a year and then followed a doctor around for a year or two, and
you were good to go.
You were good to go.
Okay.
So there were very few specialties in the medical field anyway.
Right.
At this time, obstetricians weren't a thing.
Right, because they hadn't started specializing in vaginal care.
Most of the birthing of the babies was midwives.
Right.
And there was no... Midwives learned from other midwives and used the knowledge they had from...
that they'd gained from years and years and years of experience. And
birthing their own babies.
Right. And that shared experience and the fact that they also had a uterus and a vagina.
Right.
Okay. So, during that time, was abortion a common practice?
With midwives, it happened. Primarily, it was herbal.
Okay.
But there were medical procedures to abort.
If I remember correctly, Benjamin Franklin had a recipe.
Yes, he did.
For abortion back in the early
You also
times.
have to keep in mind that this is a time where you are ostracized. You are kicked out of society if you have a baby and are not wed.
Right.
This is also a time where a lot of people are dependent on each other and they hire servants to... There's also slavery at this time as well. But if a woman was going to have a job to earn an income, they were going to be a servant to a wealthy family. They're going to teach. And nursing is
kind of, but not really. Right.
Right.
Okay.
So that was their options.
Okay. So we're hanging out in the mid 1800s. Okay. During this time, obstetricians aren't around.
Right.
You go to your general practitioner. Midwives come in and take care of most of the stuff with birthing babies and with abortions, herbal abortions. We know that Benjamin Franklin has his recipe, and then all of a sudden, the 1869, we have Mr. Horatio, who founds the Gynecological Society, and didn't he publish a book about informing about the moral and physical problems associated with abortion?
Yes, he did. He actually two. He had one specifically for women and another specifically for men that he published a couple of years later.
Okay, good.
So that, we were all on the same page.
Everybody. So was the one for men different than the one for women, don't you wonder?
It, how to encourage your wife to want this baby.
Oh, so like if your wife was saying, gee.
And there were sometimes women who are struggling. You know, they're married, they're happy, they're in the 1800s, so life isn't easy.
Nothing was easy. Yeah,
Right.
1800s. Yeah.
They have 4 kids
Already
4 years old and under.
Birth control is not really an option. I mean, you
It
can try,
is,
but it's not
yeah.
like what we know.
Right, and they did see herbalists and midwives for
Right.
birth control
Right.
also, but it wasn't frowned upon, but it wasn't necessarily looked favorably upon either, because your goal in life
As a female.
as a woman was
Yes.
to have babies.
Okay.
So, and now Benjamin Franklin, his recipe would abort a baby if you were pregnant, but it could also be taken like a birth control to prevent.
Okay. Oh, so you could use it to abort or to
Yes,
prevent.
and a lot of not all of them, there were some that was specifically just to expel
The fetus.
the fetus.
Okay.
But a lot of herbalists, they had birth control, herbal birth control.
Herbal
so
birth control.
there was
Yeah.
a lot of seeking that too.
But this could happen, even back then it was okay until the quickening, which is when you felt the baby
Yes.
move in the womb, and then
Yes, there were already laws at this point preventing abortions after the quickening, and that came from England. That is something we carried over with us
from England.
from England with
Okay,
the Puritans, the Pilgrims carried
that's
that.
the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this time, we also have slavery, right?
Yes.
That's beginning to be abolished.
Yes.
And so his fear, if I understand you correctly, was that the United States, I'm going to try to put this as delicately as I can, was becoming more of a melting pot, and as it intended, and not so much as a pure white racial society.
Yes.
So his fears that, oh my goodness, we're having mixed babies and we're having babies of color, we can't be having this. We need to keep the purity of the race, because
Right.
what makes
There was also, he had something against the Chinese.
like
he's worried
I'm
about
sure he
Chinese.
didn't like the Indians either.
I did not read anything. I read a lot of his writings. There was no mention of Native Americans. But Chinese, Irish Catholics, he was offended by Irish Catholics for a long time until he decided to become a Catholic.
So why did he decide to become a Catholic?
Because they were anti-abortion, and that is what he was doing.
Oh, okay. So the man, here he is. He's hanging out. He is a doctor doing all of his stuff, but not a Catholic, until he realizes that it's hard to find a religion that he can really push his agenda, which is being anti-abortion,
Yeah.
and to stop the blackening and browning of the United States.
Yes. I don't know where he considered Chinese in that, if they were the blackening or the browning.
Because he felt this would mean the death of the country's white race.
But Chinese aren't black or brown.
No. You know, he's an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I wanted to say it right from the start. I just wanted to say there's no way to get around it. The man is an asshole.
Yes.
How on earth do you think that, and I mean, even when you go back to that period of time and you think and you try to understand what someone might be thinking or feeling at that time, this was okay. So I will give him his kudos for thank you for caring about women's health in this roundabout sort of way, but thank you for
making us less crazy.
and thank you for realizing, my Lord, that our menstrual cycle was
The cause of our crazy.
ain't no man's the cause of the crazy. So then he sets, so prior to him, I mean, I'm just finding even words that are hard to say during this, and that's just that he pushes his anti-abortion agenda simply to try to keep the white race pure. Gosh, that sounds like someone else I know. And then he wants to help women by realizing all of the mental issues associated with our menstrual cycle. As one book put it, that I taught science and I love science. The gentle sloughing of the endometrium.
There ain't nothing gentle happening there.
Nothing gently
But I promise I ain't going crazy because of the schluffing either.
No, it is not making. And okay. He's just an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any way to. He promoted sterilization of undesirables. Not only is he saying that we've got to keep the white race pure, that women are crazy because of their menstrual cycle, but we're going to sterilize all those that we just think maybe aren't quite deserving of reproducing offspring so that we can keep that line going.
Yeah.
And he's the one that actually started all of this movement, correct?
Yeah. He started all of this movement. He started the anti-abortion laws. We're still fighting over it to this day.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's carried over almost 200 years because he started this.
Right.
You can be whichever side you want on that. But it was a generalized, until he stepped in the picture, it was a overwhelming, we know where we stand, until he threw a wrench in it, basically.
Right. And then when you look at the motive behind why he started this.
Yes.
It wasn't that, a lot of, he's an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know they're going to be.
And not only that, but wiping out, midwives are coming back. They're
making a comeback. Yes, a big comeback.
But he didn't wipe out or advocate for the removal of that profession because he didn't think they were capable. Now, he claims that it was unsanitary because they weren't trained and blah, blah, blah. But the success rate...
I was going to say, is there data to compare that?
There is. And even in the 1800s, there was only a 1 in 5 loss.
Oh, wow.
When delivered by a midwife, compared to, I think it was 2 or 3 in 5 by a medical doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was no germ theory.
Right.
There was no sanitation.
Yeah, nothing to...
And they weren't, we're talking about medical doctors who worked on everybody because there were no specialties. And they were also the ones who did medical exams after somebody died. For a medical inquest.
Right. Yes. So
there was a lot happening within the medical profession at this time, and he wiped out midwives, not because he thought it was safer for a doctor to deliver a baby. He wiped them out because it was a successful career for women. Midwives were...
Right, and he wanted the AMA to step behind because doctors were male. So if doctors are male and the American Medical Association gets by them, then it becomes monetarily an advantage for male doctors to provide the care for.
Yes. And midwives were making some money at this time.
So not only is he... Our list keeps getting longer.
It does.
And how do you say a marriage without the focus of fertilization is the same as prostitution? What if you're unable to conceive children? What if you try and you can't have children? What if, your marriage is based on love and commitment?
I don't think that was allowed.
And I realized that, the population wasn't near like what it is now, and they needed to have some way to, keep that population going, and I kind of get that as far as that. But that should not be the sole...
Correct.
Yes.
We need to get married because I didn't count enough babies in this room.
and the data that he did use was erroneous. It wasn't even correct. So they were putting out false data to justify dun dun dun
bigotry.
False data to justify bigotry.
Yep.
Wow.
to justify bigotry, and simultaneously, while we're justifying bigotry, we are advancing sexism and misogyny by taking a career away from a woman that had for centuries women had been incredibly successful at.
Okay, so
And in doing so, are harming more women and babies than we were when we let the non-medical doctor
because
midwives.
more babies are going to die because the lack of experience with the medical doctors that are coming out as compared to the midwives. But we're still going to say that we are doing that so that the male doctors can make a little bit of money, that we can keep that.
And we keep women in their place.
Keep women in their place because, they got that hysteria. And,
That's right.
And they got all that coming on because of their menstrual cycle.
That's right.
And then they're going to end up just getting a cat. Wait, that's a whole different podcast.
That was a whole different episode.
But no, he's an asshole.
Definitely an asshole.
Definitely an asshole. Anytime your sole purpose is to find a way to keep women down, to keep people of color down, and to do those things, you're an asshole. We can all live in harmony on the face of the earth together. There's enough room for all of us. There's enough love for everybody.
There's enough money for all of us to make.
There's enough money for everybody to make. We could all just learn to get along. There's enough of it. Now, I do worry about natural resources, but that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast.
But yeah.
So, in 1865, the destiny of America was found in white women's loins.
Yep.
And that's a quote, one of his quotes, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That is a direct quote.
That's putting a lot of pressure on white women's loins, first of all.
My uterus is already tired. It heard that and was like,
I did not do my...
Come get these ovaries.
My due diligence to help with anything in there. But I will stand firm in my belief, even though he's the father of obstetrics, the man was an asshole. Was an asshole.
Yeah, he was really an asshole.
Clearly. I can't be thinking, I've got the ovaries.
I still have mine too, and they are a problem.
Well.
So he definitely the asshole.
Definitely the asshole. There's no question.
All right. Well, let us know what you think. Unless you disagree with us, and then we don't want to hear from you.
This one's kind of left me a little perplexed.
I know, me too.
Everybody take care of your ovaries. If you don't have them, take care of someone you love's ovaries. I don't know. Maybe just have a great day. Get out there and
watch your menstruation crazies.
Yeah. Try to keep it down during that time of the month. And
just have a good day.
To strong, amazing
ovaries.